The forest was too quiet when he reached the clearing. No birds, no wind, not even the drip of dew from the pine needles. Then he saw it. A circle of tents, faded yellow and blue, their fabric stiff with age, yet standing as if pitched yesterday. And in the center, a campfire. Its flames licked upward, alive and bright, feeding on dry logs that hadn't burned out in 50 years. The smell was sharp, wood smoke, and something metallic, old. His breath trembled. Every item was dated. Lanterns from the 70s, enamel mugs half full of coffee, still steaming, a journal open on a folding table. He checked his GPS. No signal. The compass spun wildly, needles trembling. What if this fire has been burning since 1974? He whispered. But then a chair creaked by itself, and a shadow moved where no one stood. He circled the camp, each step crunching damp earth that felt too soft, as if breathing underfoot. Everything was wrong. The air thicker, the silence deeper. He touched the tent fabric. It was cold but dry, untouched by rot. Inside, bedrolls were unzipped, and footprints marked the ground, fresh, too fresh. He found an old Polaroid camera resting beside an empty sleeping bag. The last photo had already developed. A blurry image of him standing at the edge of the camp, taken minutes ago. His heart pounded. "No one knows I'm here," he muttered. Yet, somewhere deep within the woods, a single snap echoed, like a branch breaking or a footstep. He checked his watch. 7:42 a.m. Yet the sun hadn't risen beyond the tree line. Time itself seemed reluctant to move. He powered his camera, speaking softly into the mic, documenting each detail. His voice cracked when he noted that the fire burned with no heat. He pressed his palm above it. Nothing, just light and sound. In the distance, a faint melody drifted through the fog, like a radio signal. Static merged with faint laughter. He turned, searching for the source, but it seemed to come from everywhere at once. Then the sound cut off, leaving the echo of his own breathing, and a faint voice whispering his name. The journal's ink had bled from years of moisture. Yet one page was untouched, crisp as new. "We hear them at night," it read. "The forest repeats our words." He turned another page, a rough sketch of the clearing and something circled beyond it. A black pit, labeled the Vanishing Zone. He stepped outside, scanning the tree line, feeling the forest's gaze pressing in. The sound returned, a faint radio hum. Then a woman's voice. Calm, desperate. "If you can hear me, get out." The words hissed from the static, repeating clearer each time. He followed the sound, drawn deeper into the fog until the campfire's glow vanished behind him. The ground sloped downward, trees bending inward like ribs of some colossal creature. The radio signal grew louder, pulsing through the mist. Then he saw it. A ring of scorched earth, blackened in perfect symmetry, humming softly. His camera flickered, screens flashing white. He lifted it, and for a split second, saw figures in the lens, the 1974 team, standing still, staring directly at him. Then, darkness swallowed everything. The fire roared to life behind him again, distant but alive. Something whispered through the static. "Welcome back." He woke to silence, broken only by the faint hum of static from his recorder. The fire was gone, the camp buried beneath frost, though dawn light had barely shifted. His breath misted before him, and his tent, one he didn't remember pitching, was covered in a thin sheet of ice. Panic bit into him as he reviewed the footage from last night. Each frame was the same 6 seconds repeated. Him turning toward the fire, eyes wide, before static cut in. Then, buried within the noise, a woman's face flashed for an instant. Her lips moved, forming one word. "Help!" He tried to speak, but the forest answered first, whispering the same word back at him. He stepped outside, realizing the clearing had shifted. The trees weren't in the same places. He turned in a slow circle. No footprints, no fire pit, nothing but untouched snow. Yet, the old expedition tents now stood deeper among the trees, their canvas flapping slightly. A metallic whine filled the air, like an old tape spool rewinding. His GPS blinked again. Location: July 1974. He froze. Then came the crunch of footsteps, not his own, and a faint voice humming an old tune. He followed the sound until he saw her, standing by the fire that shouldn't exist. He called out, but she didn't react, just stared into the flames as if listening. The air between them shimmered faintly, distorting her outline. She whispered without turning, her voice layered, echoing itself. "You shouldn't have come." He moved closer, but each step felt heavier, as though the ground thickened beneath him. When he finally reached the fire, she was gone, only footprints leading into the trees. The fire hissed louder, and within its embers he saw glimpses of the expedition. Faces contorted, frozen mid-scream. The smoke rose, forming fleeting words. "Turn back." Following the trail, he stumbled upon an old truck covered in vines. Its tires sunk deep into moss, windshield cracked and half filled with rainwater. The doors bore the words, "Cascade Research, 1974. Inside, he found reel tapes, journals, and a faded photo of the team smiling beside the same fire now burning behind him. On the back, written in shaky handwriting, "We saw ourselves leave." His reflection in the window shimmered. For a moment, it wasn't him at all, but a man older, bearded, and terrified. He blinked, and the face was gone. He loaded one of the tapes into his recorder. A crackle, then voices, laughter, chatter, the mundane sound of people alive. Then, without warning, screams. A woman shouting, "The line's collapsing!" Followed by static and a deep humming tone that vibrated the air itself. He dropped the recorder. It continued playing on its own, voices distorting until they became his own, whispering his name. The forest darkened around him, light fading unnaturally fast. Every tree seemed to lean closer. He turned to run back to camp, but it wasn't there anymore. Only endless forest in every direction. He wandered through the forest until his legs ached, but every direction led him back to the same clearing, the same burned circle on the ground. His watch hands spun wildly now, the screen on his camera frozen at a single frame. Him, asleep beside the fire. Then he heard it, laughter. Human. Close. He hid behind a tree, peering through the mist, and his breath caught. Figures moved between the tents, carrying supplies, talking, laughing. The lost expedition alive and whole. The smell of campfire and fresh bread filled the air. He stepped forward, whispering, "Hello." No one looked up. Then one of them did. A man with a gray beard and hollow eyes. "You're late," he said. The others vanished in an instant. He stumbled out from behind the tree, shouting their names, but his voice echoed wrong. Slower, distorted. The camp froze, everyone turning toward him in perfect unison. Their faces were human, but their eyes were mirrors, reflecting only firelight. One woman stepped closer, lips trembling, whispering something he couldn't hear. Then the sound of a camera shutter echoed, and every figure flickered like film reels skipping frames. The woman's mouth opened wider, a scream frozen mid-air. When the flickering stopped, they were gone again. Only the fire remained, and his camera, lying beside it, taking photos by itself. He picked up the camera, its screen now displaying footage he hadn't recorded. It showed the expedition's leader, Thomas Reed, sitting beside the same fire, muttering into a radio. "If we move before dawn, we can still make it out," he said, his eyes darting to the trees. "But it doesn't let us leave." Evan pressed pause, but the voice continued from the forest around him, answering itself. He turned, and there was Thomas, or what was left of him, standing in the dark. "You found us," Thomas whispered. "Now it'll find you." Thomas spoke in fragments, sentences cutting in and out like radio static. "The zone shifts, remembers us." His breath formed no mist. His feet left no prints. Evan backed away, but the ground beneath him softened, soil turning to ash. The forest pulsed once, like a heartbeat. "We thought we could map it," Thomas said, voice breaking into echoes. "We never left." Then his form fractured, dissolving into a cloud of glowing embers that drifted upward. In the distance, the same woman's voice. "Lila's," whispered again. "Find the pit before it finds you." The forest fell silent again, but now it pulsed faintly with light, a rhythm beneath the soil. He followed it, drawn deeper until he reached a hollow tree, its trunk carved open like a doorway. Inside, faint photographs hung from threads. Polaroids, hundreds of them, each showing the same camp at different times. Some photos showed the fire burning in daylight, others at night, others with faces he recognized, and one of himself entering the forest. The latest photo was still developing, and as it cleared, his reflection stared back, standing exactly where he was now. Then, from behind the tree came the soft crunch of a footstep. He stepped out from the hollow tree, the mist now swirling like slow smoke. The forest floor shimmered faintly, etched with glowing rings that pulsed beneath the soil. The Polaroid still trembled in his hand, its surface cold. Lila's voice drifted again, closer this time, steady, almost calm. "We didn't vanish," we repeated. He turned, and there she was, standing near the same campfire, her expression serene yet broken. "It keeps us alive by replaying the moment," she whispered. "But every loop burns a piece away." He approached slowly, afraid she'd disappear like the others. "Then how do I stop it?" he asked. Her answer was soft. "You don't. You just choose which moment you die in." She led him through the trees, their steps silent on damp earth. The deeper they went, the more the air pulsed, a low hum vibrating through their chests. The forest changed shape. Trunks twisted like rope, roots shifting as if breathing. They stopped before a deep sinkhole carved into the ground, rim lined with stone markings. "This is where it started," Lila murmured. "The vanishing zone." Reed thought it was a meteor site, but it's older. It feeds on memory. Evan knelt, staring into the darkness where faint lights flickered below, like stars under the earth. "If you stare long enough," Lila said, "you see yourself walking away, but you never do." He set up his camera, desperate to capture what lay below. The lens fogged instantly, the screen flashing white. Lila warned him not to record, but he pressed on. The static deepened, turning into shapes, outlines of the expedition, their forms bending in impossible loops. Then one figure stepped forward in the footage, turning slowly toward him. It was himself, standing at the pit's edge. His reflection in the lens smiled, though he hadn't. "Stop it," Lila shouted, slapping the camera away. The image shattered into light. When he looked up, the pit was glowing brighter, pulsing with a rhythm like a heartbeat. From deep within came a voice. "Stay!" The ground trembled. The light from the pit surged upward in spirals of color. Lila grabbed his arm. "It's waking," she said. Around them, the forest shifted again, trees twisting into their younger selves, bark smooth, branches unbroken. The air smelled different, fresh, almost sweet. He looked at Lila. She seemed clearer, more alive, her features no longer ghost-like. "It's pulling us back," she whispered, voice trembling. "We're inside its memory now." He turned to see the camp behind them, brand new, gear untouched, the 1974 team laughing, alive again. "Welcome to yesterday," she said. Evan approached the camp, unable to breathe. Every detail matched the old photos, the laughter, the smell of brewing coffee, the music from a transistor radio. Lila walked among them unnoticed, her eyes wet. "We thought discovery meant escape," she said softly. Reed waved to her, alive and unaware of what would come. "Don't talk to them," she warned, but he couldn't resist. "Thomas!" he shouted. The laughter stopped. Every head turned toward him. And in perfect unison, the entire camp repeated his voice back. The same tone, the same word, echoing endlessly through the trees. The forest pulsed brighter, blurring edges of sight and sound. Evan blinked, and the world shifted. Tents vanished, the fire dimmed, and a soft drizzle fell. Only Lila remained beside him, her face streaked with tears that didn't fall. "You shouldn't be here anymore," she whispered. "Neither should I." Her voice trembled with memory. "We tried to destroy the pit. We thought burning the camp would end it. But it only burned us." He shook his head. "Then, how are you still here?" Her smile was faint, tired. "Because we never left. The forest just replays us. Until someone new takes our place." She led him to an old log cabin, half buried in vines, one he hadn't noticed before. Inside, mold crept up the walls, and the air stank of rust and pine sap. A lantern flickered on the table beside a film reel, marked Day 37. Lila threaded it into a projector, hand trembling. The image on the wall flickered to life, the expedition members running, screaming, the forest folding in on itself. Then, the reel showed her face, lit by firelight. "If anyone finds this, don't look into the pit." The film burned mid-frame, melting her image. Lila turned to him, whispering, "I told them not to." A distant boom echoed outside, followed by a flickering of light through the windows. The campfire had reignited on its own. Evan stepped out first, the air heavy with static. The forest glowed orange, the same as before, but this time there were dozens of shadows moving around the fire, murmuring softly. He realized with a chill they were all him. Identical silhouettes replaying the same gestures, touching the same tents, repeating the same breathless wonder. "It's already started," Lila said behind him. "Once you see the truth, the forest copies you." He turned toward her. But she was fading, her outline dissolving into mist. Evan fell to his knees, gripping the soil as reality bent around him. His recordings, his voice, his memories, all bleeding together. "How do I stop it?" he shouted. Lila's fading voice echoed, "You can't. You can only pass it on." The pit's glow intensified, humming so deep it rattled his chest. From the fire, the reflection of his other selves began to converge, merging into one silhouette, moving closer. It reached out a hand toward him. The same face, same eyes, but hollow and endless. The voice that came from it wasn't his. "You already did." The air cracked like thunder. The forest flashed white. When the light faded, only one figure remained by the fire. Evan stared down at his hands. They weren't his anymore. The camera beside him blinked red, recording. In its reflection, he saw another face. Older, frightened, eyes wild. A voice behind him whispered, "You found us." He turned and saw a man stepping from the trees. Himself, alive, confused, exactly as he'd been the day he arrived. The fire hissed louder, consuming sound. The circle had closed. The forest had chosen its next ghost. The forest had chosen its next ghost. Dawn never came. The forest hung in a half-light that refused to change, every second stretching endlessly. Evan sat near the fire, his fire now, though it burned with no warmth. The air was thick, like breathing through fog. His camera blinked red beside him, still recording. He played it back. The footage showed himself sitting exactly as he was now, staring into the flame. Then the voice began, not his, but something deeper, threaded beneath his own tone. "Stay where you are," it said, calm and commanding. You belong here. He looked up at the trees. Their branches swayed without wind, whispering words he could almost understand. They were saying his name. He followed the whispering through the trees, moving like a man underwater. Each step echoed, delayed, repeating itself seconds later. The forest's breath thickened, the air filled with static. Then he found the remnants of the 1974 expedition's radio tower, bent and rusting, its antenna aimed at the sky. He brushed off years of grime, flicked a switch, and it hummed to life. A woman's voice came through the static, broken but unmistakable. "Evan, if you hear this, run." His pulse froze. It was Lila. The signal crackled and continued. "Don't look back. That's how it takes you." And in the reflection of the radio glass, something moved behind him. He ran. The forest seemed endless, each turn folding back into itself. He shouted her name until his voice cracked. Then, the ground fell away, a chasm opening beneath the moss. He landed hard, surrounded by darkness and dripping water. Light flickered above, and for a moment he saw shapes carved into the stone walls. Hundreds of faces, their eyes closed, mouths open as if whispering. Each one wore an expression of recognition. He reached out to touch one, and its eyes snapped open. A surge of images filled his mind. Lila's scream, Thomas burning, his own face reflected again and again. He stumbled back, the voice in his head repeating one phrase, "Remember us." He scrambled out of the pit, his breathing ragged, only to find the clearing again waiting. The fire still burning, unchanged. Lila's voice echoed faintly from everywhere and nowhere. "It keeps the ones who remember." The air shimmered, and she appeared across the flames, faint and translucent. "You can't destroy it," she said softly, "but you can break your part." He lifted the camera. "Then I'll end this," he said. "I'll delete everything." She smiled sadly. "You can try, but memory doesn't delete. It replays." Then she was gone again, her image scattering like ash through the rising smoke. He dropped to his knees beside the fire, scrolling through every recording. The images looped endlessly. The tents, the footprints, his arrival, all repeating. In one video, he noticed something new. A figure standing just behind him every time. Not Lila, not Reed. Himself, watching. The truth sank like lead. The loop wasn't replaying him. It was multiplying. "I'm not leaving," he whispered, voice trembling. The fire cracked. His reflection in the lens whispered back, "You never did." The forest sighed, its branches shifting in unison, and in the silence that followed, the recording light blinked off. The sky hung in a gray stillness, frozen between dawn and dusk. The fire flickered, softer now as if waiting. Evan stood in the clearing, camera in one hand, the other trembling near the flame. His reflection stared back at him in the lens, calm, almost smiling. He could feel the forest breathing, every tree exhaling the same rhythm as his heart. "If I destroy it," he whispered, "maybe it stops." The forest whispered back, "Maybe you stop." His breath faltered. The camera felt heavier, alive. Behind him, faint figures appeared between the trees, the lost expedition, silent, watching. Their faces said what words could not. They were waiting for him to choose. He raised the camera and pressed play. The screen filled with static, then cleared to reveal himself at the fire, just as he stood now. Every movement matched perfectly. He tilted his head. The reflection did too, but half a second late. "Who are you?" he whispered. The reflection smiled. "You already know." He dropped the device, its screen cracking, sound cutting into harsh static. The fire roared back to life, bright and violent, wind tearing through the clearing. "End it!" Lila's voice shouted from nowhere and everywhere. "And the recording before it becomes you." He lifted the camera one last time, thumb hovering over delete. He pressed delete. The screen went black. The forest exhaled. The fire dimmed to embers. The mist drew inward. And for the first time, silence fell. He looked up at the trees. They no longer seemed alive, just still. Then, slowly, one of the tents collapsed, dust billowing up like smoke. Another fell. The clearing began to fade, the air growing thinner. Lila appeared once more, faint as fog. "You did it," she whispered. "You broke the loop." Evan reached for her hand, but it passed through his. "Then, why can I feel anything?" he asked. She smiled softly. "Because you never left, Evan. None of us ever did." The silence deepened until he heard only his own breathing. Then, faintly, a click. The red recording light blinked again on the broken camera. He picked it up in disbelief. It was recording on its own. On the screen, a live image. Him kneeling in the same position. The timestamp read 1974. He stood, stepping back as the forest began to reform. The fire rekindling, the tents rising, the air thickening with the scent of pine and smoke. The loop wasn't broken. It had simply chosen a new beginning. His voice cracked as he whispered, "Please, no more," the forest replied. "Always." The fire burned strong again, crackling like it always had. The camp was whole, untouched. Evan stood by it, calm now, his eyes distant. He lifted the camera to his face and began to speak softly. The same words he had whispered when he first arrived. "The forest was too quiet when I reached the clearing." His voice was steady, almost rehearsed. In the reflection of the lens, a new figure appeared behind him. A hiker, confused, watching from the trees. Evan turned slightly, a faint smile forming. "Welcome back," he whispered. The camera kept recording. The forest exhaled. The fire hissed. The loop began again.